if you're being in community for the sake of community, like if your whole goal is like we're gonna all be best friends and like hang out all the time and love each other, like it's never gonna work. But if like the pole that you're all holding on to in the center is Jesus, then it's like we're gonna work through whatever you do that irritates me. Like that's not the highest value. Like the highest value is that we are connected to Jesus together.
Welcome to the Everyday Faith Podcast, where we believe you can live out your faith every day by starting with belief, embracing your mission, committing to obedience, and pursuing community. Jess is waiting for me to say it, so I had to do a long pause. I'm Dan.
Okay, and I'm Jess. We are very excited to welcome Kaycee Stanley back to the podcast for part 2 today. Kaycee's the founder of the Real Hope Project, an organization she and her husband Pete started to help change the narrative around foster care and adoption by telling the stories of waiting kids. With a deep love for Jesus, kids, and storytelling, the mission is also personal. They have adopted their son through the Real Hope video that they created with him, actually, and they have 4 beautiful children now. And we're looking forward to another conversation with Kaycee. So Kaycee, welcome back. First of all,
Thank you.
Let's jump right in. We didn't get to hear a whole lot about Real Hope itself last time. We heard a little bit of the story, but can you share with us and our listeners about Real Hope, how it came to be, and a bit about why it came to be?
Yeah. Yes. So at Real Hope, what we do is we make videos of kids in foster care who are waiting to be adopted. And then we use their videos to try to find a forever family for every child. So I'm not sure how much your audience is aware of sort of the stats around the foster care system, but in the United States, there are 400,000 kids in the foster care system. 400,000. The goal of foster care is reunification with biological parents. So when kids go into foster care, the hope is that mom and dad will find stable housing or stable employment or go through rehab or do whatever it is they need to do. Yeah. And hopefully they do, and kids are able to go back home. At Real Hope, we only work with the kids for whom going home is no longer an option. So of those 400,000 kids in foster care, there's about 100,000 whose parental rights have been terminated. Mom and dad have not done what they needed to stabilize. And eventually the state steps in and terminates parental rights. And for those kids, there's one of two realities. They're either going to be adopted into a forever family or they're going to age out of the foster care system. The stats around if they age out of the foster care system without a family are pretty devastating. So it's estimated that 20% of people in our prison systems in the United States consist of adults who aged out of foster care when they were kids. 20%, which is pretty insane. 29% of kids who age out of the system will be homeless by the time they turn 21. Half of all babies born to a mama who is in foster care will enter foster care themselves. It's just like this generational cyclical issue. And so we learned for years about some of those statistics, and we just saw the calling of the church to care for the vulnerable. And we just thought, man, how
kind of like God told us to do that in his word.
Yes.
Yeah. Like no gray area in that one.
To him. Yeah. Yes. And we had seen, like, we'd been a part of the church our whole lives, and we just saw, man, the church has a beautiful heart for the orphan and the widow. And we do missions trips to orphanages, and we do child sponsorship programs. There's all kinds of beautiful things that the church is doing to care for orphans. But usually when we think orphan, we think international or we think babies. And again, both of those are beautiful, but we just don't always think of, oh, there's kids in my kids' school. Like there's kids in my neighborhood who are waiting for a family. So we just kind of wanted to wake the church up to that reality. And we started making videos with our friend Dan, who was a videographer and volunteered his time to start making videos of kids in Minnesota. And then
I bet you he's really handsome.
Yeah, every Dan that I know.
All Dans are.
It's a great name. He's probably smart.
That feels weird.
A little
that
funny.
I just said that.
That is weird.
Nah.
That's okay. It happened.
Just erase that.
Wow. So how many videos are you guys making?
Yeah, this year we'll make somewhere between 150 and 200
Oh
videos.
my goodness.
Yeah,
That's
it's pretty
Amazing.
fun.
And how long are these videos? Like, what
It's
is
like a 2 to 3 minute, we call it a profile video. So it's like a 2
Yeah.
to 3 minute. We'll spend a few hours with the kid. It's really fun. We kind of try to make it like their best day ever. So we, work with their social worker to learn like this kid loves horseback riding or this kid
That's
loves
so cool.
pottery or football. And then we plan a whole shoot around like, all right, we're going to a pottery studio. Or one time we got to play
Cool.
with a semi-pro football team. Or whatever. We try to find whatever it is to really bring that kid to life and plan a really special day for them. And then we film the whole time that we're there and get a couple hours of footage and then we cut it to like 2 or 3 minutes. And then we can
Wow.
put that video on our website and sometimes on social media. Kids have different safety concerns, so it kind of depends on what their social worker wants in terms of how much exposure the video gets. But then we share videos at churches and events, and their adoption agency gets a copy and they get a copy to just kind of use.
And so,
Well, what a great tool, because I mean, my sister adopted last year, and it's a beautiful, difficult process. And so
Yes.
someone gets so much more context and information on these amazing kids. That has to be so helpful.
It's so fun. And like, there's been a pivot in the adoption world where, 20, 30 years ago when families were adopting, social workers would actually try to not inform families of any kind of history or trauma of this kid because the wisdom of the time was just love them like a normal kid and just treat them like they're your own and it'll be fine. And then families were getting into things that they weren't necessarily ready for, or kids had been through things that nobody was aware of. And so now the thinking has 180'd and you get as much information as the county has, but the county only has bad information. Like they're not recording like, also this kid is like really articulate and poetic and funny. Like that's not in a county file, And so the families get this information, which is important information, but we try to then pair it with like, also little Joey is like loud and funny and has this like weird little personality and this goofy laugh and trying to help remind families that, that trauma is real and families need to be aware of that as they step into this. And families need to be reminded that this is a real kid and this kid deserves a family.
very cool.
That's really cool.
That's got to be pretty impactful for the kids who have the opportunity to do these videos, right?
Yeah, they love it. It's really fun. We've had just a couple months ago, we had a girl, we did her whole shoot day and her social worker told us afterward that she got in the car and the first thing she said was like, that was kind of life-changing to do a video shoot that was all about her and all about her strengths. Like it was only about the best and most beautiful things that God had put inside of her, and to just have that called out and highlighted, I think is really, who doesn't want that? Like if I would want a video of myself just being awesome.
They've got to
saying,
feel
how much
so
do those videos
seen.
cost? I need to get one.
Just to pump you
Yeah.
up a little bit.
Yeah.
Highlight
All
reel,
right.
yeah.
But what a beautiful thing that you guys are doing, helping children feel seen, right? I mean, you think about the way that you are finally helping put on display the best parts of themselves, right? The things that God put in them, their creativity and their sense of humor, right? And maybe no one's ever called that out of them before, right?
Yeah, we've had situations where kids have, sometimes for teenagers, it's hard to actually say the words like, I want to be adopted. Because that could mean, to them, it could feel like I'm saying I don't miss my birth mom, or I don't wish that my birth family could have taken care of me. And so sometimes there are kids who are like, well, I want my own video, but I don't want to be adopted. And often that's one, because it's hard to say it out loud. And two, because they know what their case file says. They know what families are going to see. And so they're like, I reject this before anybody rejects me, is often kind of their thinking. And so it's been really powerful because we'll still do a video. Even if a kid is like, I don't want to be adopted, we'll still say, let's just do it anyway. And then you can have it. And it's just like a little memento for you of, what you were like when you were 16. And so we've done that for kids. And then sometimes once they see the video, then they say to their social workers, yeah, okay, you can put that on the website. Yeah, you can share that with families. It just kind of pivots their, speaking of identity, it really pivots the way that they view themselves.
Very cool.
What have been some things, one or two things that you've learned in meeting and filming so many of these videos that maybe God's kind of shined a light on this, Like, what are some things you've learned from them that you can apply to yourself or you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Man, I think there's a few things. One is just really learning how to hold kids' trauma well, I think. I think when we first started, I had what I would describe now as maybe a more Pollyanna, everything sunshine and rainbows kind of approach. And I remember our third video shoot ever, I asked this girl, like, okay, if you could make up a dream family, like, what would your dream family look like? And she got super quiet and she was like, well, my dream family is my family, my birth family. I just wish they could have taken care of me. And I was like, oh my gosh, yes. And just like needing to sort of change my heart posture of like holding that better. And still calling out like vision for the future for her, you know, and like kind of helping her begin to dream. In my short little role in her life, I'm with her for just a few hours on a video shoot, but like trying to help her begin to dream about like, yes, I am sorry that your family couldn't be the ones to raise you. And like, when we start looking at the future, what are things that you from your birth family that you want to see in your future family? Like, what are the things you value about them? And kind of trying to help kids hold that intention is, like, that's tricky. Like, that takes some emotional intelligence to like kind of navigate that. Right. But I feel like our team has kind of learned and figured out how to do that, and then that translates to every relationship, you know, to like be with people when they're hurting and not stay there, and like, okay, and how do we kind of slowly start to raise our eyes up. The other one is just more practical, which is like kids cannot resist fun. So like, no matter how crabby they are, no matter like how they feel about their shoot day, it's just like, I'm going to be having a good time. So you can kind of join me over here if you want to. And I had a kid one time who sat at the table like this and like would not pick his head up for like the first 40 minutes of the video shoot. And we just kept joking with his brother. His brother was into it. So we're like, we're just going to keep talking to your brother. And eventually the other kids like would pop his head up and like say something snarky and then back down and then pop up. And it was just like, over time, we're waiting him out and he will have fun with us. And so that's just been like a fun thing to see, is that like kids across the country, kids with all kinds of experiences, none of them can resist fun.
I love that. Well, and what a great way to connect with people in general, right? I feel like both of those things that you shared can be so generalized and applied in so many areas of life that, you know, with fun, it's like, okay, well, my neighbor and I disagree about literally everything. But guess what? Like, if we can just smile, laugh, have fun, you know what? Sometimes that softens people a lot more than anything else.
And you realize you don't disagree on everything, just a couple things.
Yeah. And then
all I know is our second born, how you get her out of sometimes her mental funk is just having fun. See, you can get her to do anything if it's fun. A
little fun. Well, and then the other, your first point about, man, trauma and grief, like we've all been through hard things. Obviously, some people way harder things than others, and that's great. You know, not to take anything away from that, but so much of life is how do we work through those hard things and still dream? I love the way you said that, you know, they've experienced trauma and like, yeah, of course, the ideal family. Wow, the ideal family for that girl was her birth family. But okay, so how do we hold that and also dream?
Yes.
And imagine what God could have in store for us.
Yes.
You know, I think about that in seasons of transition and change, and you know, when the old just isn't possible anymore. We can't go back to the way things used to be, and yet God's got something great ahead for us. Yeah. And so we need to figure out, what do we do with that? That's hard. There's no clean answer for that, but
right.
You know, one thing I've been convicted on lately is I've had this thought, because we've been mentoring some people, and I'm like, you're sad or frustrated or whatever it is because you think you have an option. And so they're like, well, I really want this car. It's like, you can't afford it. Yeah. So like, you think you have this option, but there's no option here. Like, what is this? Yeah. But then sometimes I take that too far, and it's been amazing. The Lord talking about this, the Lord's convicted me on like, sometimes you need to sit in And like the ideal family, the dream family is the family that's not an option anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
And like that is valuable to validate maybe
Sit with that a
and
little
sit
bit
with it.
and-
But I'm like, why do you sit here? It hurts. don't do it. I'm
Yeah.
working through that
Get out of
myself.
that as soon as we can.
But it is so cool that you can sit there and be that positive influence. And even if it's
Yeah.
just, seeding an idea of hope, like how beautiful is that?
Yeah. Yes. It's been such a joy and such a privilege to get to kind of have that position with kids. And
Yeah.
really, like, the social workers are in the trenches with these kids day after day.
Oh,
We
man.
get to like hop in for a few hours and like go horseback riding and like have a good time. And then that's like that's like the length of our relationship with that kid. But it has been such a joy and a privilege to feel like we get to be like a representation of the love of Jesus to these kids in these little spurts,
Yeah.
and kind of cast some vision for how we believe that God created them and what he's put in them. It's just been a dream.
That brings up in my mind the idea of community and the idea that, the people that are in these children's lives really, really matter.
Yeah.
Sometimes these kids, most of the time, these kids don't have a whole lot of choice in it. But then, like, as someone who is looking into adoption and getting into that world with a lot of unknowns and starting down this journey of learning, there's so much to be learned. I don't know. I'm curious what direction you would go just in the idea of community around foster care, around adoption, around...
Well, let's go more general. Let's just talk about community and the importance of it. Because a lot of us have choices of community, right?
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, we are choosing our community.
Yeah.
So tell us what your thoughts are on our pillar, pursue community.
Yeah. Yeah, I think two things come to mind for me there. One was just a real season of growth for me in my early 20s. I lived in an intentional discipleship house with 9 women. And a few of them were some of my best friends. I'd known them for years. And a few of them were like friends of friends who I barely knew. And so we had these sort of rhythms of connection together. But I remember meeting with them, with all 9 of us for the first time before we'd even moved in. And one of them just kind of bugged me. I just like didn't connect. And I just had this moment of like, oh no, I'm going to live with this girl. And I think we're going to annoy each other, and I don't think I like her. And I remember meeting with my mentor, and I was like, so, big issue. I'm about to have a roommate who I don't like. And I'd always gotten along well with my roommates. And I was just like, I don't even have a category for what to do. If I don't like someone, I just am like not friends with them. like that's, I have not had to like, I had not built the muscle of like work through conflict with somebody. And so I remember telling my mentor, like, we're going to do this intentional community. I'm kind of panicking because there's this girl that's going to be in my house who I think I'm going to not like. And my mentor was like, if you're being in community for the sake of community, like if your whole goal is like, we're going to all be best friends and like hang out all the time and love each other, like it's never going to work. But if like the pole that you're all holding on to in the center is Jesus, then it's like, we're going to work through whatever you do that irritates me. Like that's not the highest value. Like the highest value is that we are connected to Jesus together. And it was such a like pivotal reframe for me to like, oh yeah, the goal here isn't just like be best friends with everyone. The goal is like we're pursuing Jesus together and we're going to end up together if we're both pursuing him.
Wow.
And it was such a like, I'm like, I don't even know how I would be married if I hadn't learned what I learned through this friendship with this girl. And like, we had to figure out how to like, we communicate differently. We laugh at different things.
Wait, you and your husband are different?
We're different. Can you
have
believe
to work
that?
through conflict?
Yes. I don't know what's wrong with him, but yeah.
We had a marriage coach once tell us like, oh, I've never worked with a couple that's so different as you guys. They're like,
Winner, winner.
thanks. Like, I don't know what to say to that. And he's like, here's the stats to prove it. I'm like, wow, okay.
Oh, funny. Yes.
But
Yes, I
it's a
do
good
feel like
muscle.
God used that girl to like help me learn like, okay, it's not just like, oh, we got in a fight, so we're not friends anymore. It's like we got in a fight and now we're gonna sit down and we're gonna talk through it. like I learned that because of her and because we like chose Jesus over like warm fuzzies.
And humility, right?
Yes.
It is a beautiful life lesson in humility. I've had
Yeah.
probably too many times,
Yeah.
right? Of like, okay, I value the relationship over being right.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of humility to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And then I think in the world of adoption too, it's like adoption is just a really unique journey, and it's just a different way of parenting than biological parenting. And so before our son even came home, we joined a small group, and the topic of the small group is adopted and foster care, and we've been meeting now for 9 years as a group, and it's people who have adopted or they are adopted or they want to adopt someday. It's a spectrum, but we're all there because we're like on this journey together. And that has been such a gift. That group has been a game changer for us, and like kind of who we reach out to when we're like, this is coming up, we don't know how to deal with this, or we feel burnt out, or I think just I'm thankful that God gave us the foresight and the connections to be in that group and to have the intentionality to build those friendships, because I think there is sometimes it's easy to just kind of think like, I'll build community with whoever's around, which can work out, but there is
Usually
more,
not.
but usually not. And there's some intentionality required. And yeah, and it's like ongoing intentionality. Like in today's world, community doesn't just like, oh, I built my community in my 20s, so now I have community, is like not gonna happen. So yeah, that would be my just encouragement to this audience, to be building community with intentionality and kind of even forethought of where you want to go. Like, we will be adopting in 2 years, so let's join this group now and begin to like build these relationships.
That's so good.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
Or, I have 11-year-old. They're going to be a teenager in a couple of years. Let me get connected to some people that have slightly older kids and learn from them.
Right.
Of what they have to say. And make sure that they're the kind of people that we would like to learn from too.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Tread lightly there. Yeah.
And that's why we say pursue community, right? You're not going to meet one person. That's it. Right.
Yeah.
It's going to be a pursuit. You're going to find a couple. I'm like, okay, this just isn't a good fit, and that's okay. And then you move on, you're pursuing this community, and your seasons change. We have young kids now. Eventually we'll have a little older kids. After that, guess what? We'll have even older kids. It's like, and someday they'll be in college, and someday we'll be empty nesters. And to see even like Jess's parents being with empty nesters,
I was gonna say
and right, like being a part of those communities and seeing the life that even comes from your parents, being intentional with their community, it is a pursuit. And people are terrible at initiating relationships.
Yes.
This is my opinion, but it's very true. And so if you can initiate and pursue community, your life is going to be so much better off. Yes, it's hard work, but it's also hard work to be lonely too. So it's going to be hard either way. And I love what you said in part 1, right? Intimacy over impact. And that can even go into your community. I'd rather have 5 close friends than 20 shallow relationships, right? Yeah. So I love that you're being so intentional, pursuing community, especially having the vision to know this is where we're going. So let me get to be a part of that community now.
Yeah.
We commend you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Right. There's a little bit of mission there too, of like knowing or being intentional. To be connecting with God and saying, okay, Lord, what do you have? And then how can I embrace that and pull community into that? The community is not just over here and my mission's over here. That's all. It all kind of converges. It's important that it converges. I think God designed it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we love about our pillars. It's not necessarily steps 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like, here's our focuses, and you're going to kind of do all of them together. We're going to constantly be referring back to and starting with belief of like who God says I am. Yeah. Who does God say my child is? Who does God say my adopted child is? And having those conversations too, while having community and committing to obedience, which is the hardest one, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm like, I know what I should do, but I'm not doing it.
Yes, totally.
Paul it.
Yeah, he does.
Well, as we wrap this up and we talked about community and you're an amazing organization, and the videos you're filming for these kids, which is a brilliant idea in today's world. What is something you would like to leave us with or encourage us with?
I would love to. This is just kind of my heartbeat, if I can throw this out there, is I would just love to encourage anybody who's listening to pray about what your calling looks like when it comes to vulnerable kids. And that doesn't mean everybody's called to adopt. It doesn't mean everyone's called to foster, but it could mean you're called to support a birth mom who is in crisis, or it could mean you're called to like support a foster family and be bringing meals over, or start a small group. Like I think it is so easy for us to get caught up in our own lives, and if we don't take intentional choices and steps to like keep these kids in front of our eyes, it is so easy to forget that they're out there. And so my encouragement would be to just really have a conversation with the Lord about if there's a place for you to step in caring for the vulnerable kids, and then obey.
Well, can we take that a little deeper? I love this. If someone's like, man, I feel like I could do something, not maybe do everything, what is that list of like things that people can do that actually make a difference?
Well, there's a huge spectrum. So like what Real Hope calls people to is like the highest level of commitment. It's like a lifelong commitment to a kid forever. So there's adoption. There's foster care, is temporary care for kids while they're in that limbo of like, am I going to reunify with mom and dad, or am I going to need to be adopted? There's 300,000 kids who are in limbo right now. So foster care, there's a huge need for foster care. There are also incredible organizations that are supporting birth moms, and that helps keep kids out of the foster care system. So that could be a mom who's like, I need to go to rehab. I know I need to go to rehab, but if I go to rehab, CPS will come and take my kids and they'll be put in the foster care system, and I don't know how I'm going to get them back. And so there are these incredible organizations. One is called Safe Families, and one is called Together for Good. They're in multiple states around the country, but they support birth moms in crisis to help keep kids out of the system, largely through local church communities. Then there's all kinds of like simpler things, like wraparound care is what it's kind of called in the child welfare space, which is wrapping around a foster or adoptive family with just practical support, like I'll drive your kid to soccer this week, or I'll bring a meal every Thursday, or whatever it is. Or even simple things like follow Real Hope on social media and share kids' reels with your network. Like that's such an easy, like we're posting kid reels every week, multiple times a week. Just hit the share button and like blast that kid to your network. And we've had many kids that have been matched with families because somebody saw their reel on social media. So that's like the world's easiest step that anybody could do, but like that really does make a difference.
So good. Kaycee, thank you for sharing your heart with us, your organization, and some of your hard-learned lessons from all this lifetime that God's put adoption in your heart.
Yeah.
Jess and I are going to take next steps on making sure that we can help the vulnerable. And so we just encourage everybody, even if it's just giving $1 or sharing something on social media or more, we encourage you just to be asking God. This is God's heart. It is very important to God. I encourage you to read his word on it. And so I encourage you to make sure that you just take a next step to see what God has for you in helping vulnerable kids in our great country. So thank you, Kaycee. This has been amazing.
Thank you guys. I so appreciate your time.
Thank you for listening to this conversation from the Everyday Faith Podcast. Our goal is to inspire everyday faith conversations. Please join us by rating and reviewing wherever you're listening, and most importantly, by sharing with a friend. For more resources like this, visit our website, askaboutmyfaith.com. God bless you as you live out your faith in your everyday rhythms of life.